Hello, everyone. You know, when I started, I had a huge failure. It was called La Grande Verrée in Pointe-aux-Trembles in 1982. And I had decided to launch an event on over 2 weekends, 4 days in May. I had picked the month of May because that was when the sponsors wanted to launch their beer and so on. And I had picked Pointe-aux-Trembles because there was a great stage. It was covered, and so we didn't have to worry about temperature changes. But the first night there was a strike in the transit system. The second night there was a huge Siberian cold. The third night there was a torrential rain, even though I had asked Tina Turner to be there. And so we were only 500. And the fourth night, it was a reggae group from Jamaica, a series of reggae groups. And CBC Radio-Canada was there, and they said it was the biggest failure they had ever seen in Quebec. And I was there with an 8-ounce whiskey in my hand, and I was trying to get all my sponsors to feel that next weekend they would be successful, that we would be also actually taping for Radio-Canada, that I'd be able to pay everyone. While I was reassuring everyone, I was hearing people saying 30 minutes on the walkie-talkie, and I was saying, no, there'll be people, don't worry, we'll open the doors. And I was talking, and I was seeing people were actually practicing their reggae in their winter clothes, under the snow. Yes, it was very impressive, very impressive. You can imagine that there were supposed to be 60,000 people there. And that was the stage of the Montreal, if you know that one. I mean, it's like 2 football fields, and I was right on top. And I said, it's going to open in 10 minutes, don't worry. 100 people, security people, walked in at every 10 meters, and I said, don't worry. The doors opened. One person walked in. And it was a young person with a knapsack, and he had walked 400 meters alone, and he went, and he was most impressed by the space. And, you know, he thought he was on the Titanic. It was going to sink on him. So I'm terrified to speak to you about the event for the 375th anniversary. I'm very, very proud to be the commissioner. And nevertheless, I wanted to tell you all about it, even though we're just starting to plan it. So the 150th anniversary of Canada, the 375th for Montreal, and the 50th for Expo. Well, quite a lot of celebrations altogether. There were hundreds of consultations and meetings already, and we were told by Montreal that they want to celebrate their history, their legacy, their heritage, and they want Montreal to shine. I think that applies also for the 150th anniversary of Canada. Myself and a team, with Pierre Belrose, who's here, I meet every week people from all fields so that they can talk to me about how they see the celebrations taking place. We have huge brainstormings, as you may imagine, and I ask them, okay, if we had any kind of standards or points of reference, what will we do? Well, there was the pride. Everybody's talking about pride. It is important that, therefore, we should use these celebrations for people to feel pride again. People talk also about belonging. They want to have a sense of belonging. People are talking about the bicultural aspect of Montreal. Well, in Montreal, that was always a strength. And this confrontation or this dialectic was also what brings us to have the kind of a different unity. And this is one of the great assets of Montreal. Of course, diversity. We're talking about creativity, about being daring, about the fact that Montreal is a party town, a fun town. And there is, of course, the confrontation between history and our modern times. Not to deny our history, but to remember to move forward. So we talk about the four seasons, and we talk about the fact that we want something to remain of all this. We want to have startups, we want to have economic startups and cultural startups, and we want all kinds of things to start up. And we want it to shine. And since I've heard Pierre, I'll add health. So these are the points of reference, and they're going to help us in our work for the next few years. Now, what kind of examples can I give you? When you meet creators or leaders who come up with projects, well, you have to have a grid and line them up and schedule them, but you also have to have an overall look of what it all means together. So, Old Montreal, I think, history, Pointe-à-Calière, the Stuart Museum that's moving, the Pilon, and we talked about the moving factory and Moment Factory, and then there's, of course, the bridge, Jacques Cartier, the history of Aboriginal people in Old Montreal. We have to use Old Montreal, definitely, when it comes to the history. And all the projects should be connected to that, and that is, of course, a high spot for tourism, and it is something we're very proud of. So therefore, there's no compromise there. Next. East of Montreal. Well, I think we have a lot of life there is around the Olympic stadiums, of course, and that's very clear. St. Catherine. St. Catherine is the nightlife of Montreal. The gay village and the show at Place des Arts, all of these areas are the nightlife of Montreal that can carry on until 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning. The downtown, we have a lot of creative shops there and a lot of institutions, companies, and so on, and that's where we want to talk mostly about creativity. And there's, of course, Moment Factory and lighting up Jacques Cartier. That's an example of the kind of things we could do. And Jean Drapeau Park. Well, sports, of course. It is, of course, an island for extremes and sins. Well, I think that that also is going to be one of the showcases that we will have. But, you know, we have to make sure that we know exactly where we're putting our funds. Mount Royal now, nature and observation. Now, I think that it is important to belong to a neighborhood. I lived in Villeray and on the Plateau and many other neighborhoods. I'm in Outremont now. It is normal that you should belong to your neighborhood, and that should be celebrated. Therefore, there should be all kinds of neighborhood events, and I think that that is an opportunity for people in Montreal to discover all the different neighborhoods we have. So Montreal for 2017 should leave us with all kinds of memories for the next celebrations, for the 400th anniversary, for example. Things are more and more sophisticated, people are traveling more and more. I think that it would be normal that we should set an example. If we say that we are a town of creative people, then everything that we do from now on, and every time we're going to invest, then we should make sure that things become more and more creative, more and more beautiful. And I think that the Champlain Bridge will be an opportunity to make something beautiful. Within our budgets, within our engineering constraints, we should still aim for exceptional beauty, because we do have to leave a legacy for people who will be celebrating the 400th celebration, the 400th anniversary. So the first step is urgent. That's the part about the legacy and the heritage that we want to leave behind us. It's not easy, we don't have a lot of funds, but it's important that we should decide right now for the Champlain Bridge, even though it'll be in construction. It is important that we decide where we're going to do what in 2017. Pointe-à-Calière, Old Montreal, Quartier Latin, all of this is important. Quartier Latin is one of the important neighborhoods, and it's an extension of Place des Arts. And it is the opportunity also perhaps to invite all the countries who were here for Expo 1967, and they can give us a piece of art that we can display. And it'll be not necessarily on the Jean Drapeau Park, unless we can decide to do an exposition there. But it would be a gift for the 50th of Expo, and that would make sense. Old Montreal and the access to water. So all of that is important. We need those legacies, that heritage. Secondly, in 2015, we should be able to tell our institutions what they should do, because they start 3 years in advance. You can't get to them in 2016 or 17 if you want the OSM to be there and other institutions to contribute. Then you need to start in 2015, and then the creative work is starting in 2016. I think all the creators should be our ambassadors throughout the world as of 2016, and they should sell Montreal, sell Quebec, sell Canada's celebrations. Leonard Cohen is doing, for example, tours. Every night he could have a video to sell Canada's celebrations of 2017 and Montreal's celebrations and the Expo celebrations. So in conclusion, we don't have a lot of money. Obviously, budget is a constraint, but we are going to start to invite sponsors and have wonderful events that will bring in all kinds of sponsors. And we're talking about a time when we are still in crisis, where there's a lot of cynicism. Nevertheless, I think that we'll be able to raise the funds. People really want events. They really want to celebrate. They need it. Michel, who's an economist, knows that when you have a financial crisis, it's also highly psychological. And you cannot always be on the defensive. When you have different crises, you should say, okay, the flu's over, it's done with. And so therefore 2017 should be a time when we can be pride and celebrate. So I'm here. I invite you to come to our brainstormings and help us to build towards the celebrations for the 150th anniversary, 375th, and the 50th. Thank you very much.
Get your take on something. On parle du 150e.
Oui.
We're talking here about the 150th anniversary, the 375th anniversary, and the 50th. Is there any conflict here? Conflict, maybe? You're very close. You have wonderful hair. Yes, you too, actually.
A potential for conflict there, or competition entre les deux, un conflit.
Pas personnellement.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think that, in fact, this is a time for reconciliation, for putting them all together, for joining. You know, at the end of the day, no, I don't think conflict is it. No, not at all. No, seriously, I said it already. The bicultural aspect of Montreal, the bilingualism of Canada, that is an asset. And I think we should use it. We should thrive on it. I don't think we're going to fight about the 100th anniversary or the 375th or the 50th. We're going to work together. We're going to be on the same team. Never mind the Canadians, the Habs yesterday.